Shatter my energy tube.
No!
Only the good energy from my tube can destroy the
A
forces
giant
of
floating head asks a 20-year-old to kill him. That's the scene. Not a metaphor, not a fan reading. In November 1998, on a Saturday morning, on a show that existed to sell toy robots, the wise old mentor looks at the kid he recruited and says, "Break the tube." And the kid does it. And here's the bit almost nobody sits with. That one death is load-bearing. Pull it out and 30 years of Power Rangers falls over. No purified villains, no fresh team every year, no Mystic Mother, no Robo Rita in 2023. Possibly no franchise at all. So today, what if Zordon never died? Canon first, receipts second, and then we go somewhere that never happened, and I'll tell you exactly when we cross that line. Here's my promise for a video built on something that never happened. You will never once have to wonder what's real and what I'm only supposing. I'll say which, out loud, every single time. I'm posting one of these every day for a month, and subscribing is the only thanks I'm after.
People of Earth! This is Astronomer. The rest of
3 registers in this video, and I'm saying them out loud once so you can hold me to them. 1. What actually happened? That's canon and production record, and I'll state it flat. 2. Why it happened. That's business and scheduling, and it's sourced. 3. The what if. That's me guessing. Nothing in that section is canon, and I'll flag it every time we're in it. Right. Canon first.
Zordon?
Yes, Andros, it's me.
Zordon! I can't believe it!
Zordon spends most of the Zordon era as a face in a tube in a basement. Then Turbo does something the show had never done. It takes him away. He goes home to Eltar, and Eltar falls. And by the time In Space starts, he's a prisoner of Dark Specter, being slowly drained of his power to fuel the biggest villain alliance the franchise ever assembled. So, the whole of In Space is a rescue mission. That's the actual plot. 5 kids and a stolen ship, trying to get the old man back. And they start it with nothing. Turbo doesn't end on a win. It ends with the base destroyed, the power's gone, and the villains driving off into space with the Rangers chasing after them in a borrowed shuttle. That's the state the show hands to In Space. No mentor, no Zords, no home. They find him in the finale, called Countdown to Destruction, episodes 42 and 43, which went out on the 20th and 21st of November, 1998. And by then, Earth has already fallen. That's canon, and it still surprises people. The Rangers lose. The invasion lands. Civilians are fighting in the streets with tools. And Zordon, in his tube, on the Dark Fortress, tells Andros the only way to win is to destroy him. Andros refuses. Then he does it anyway. The tube shatters. And what comes out isn't a bomb. Canon is very specific here, and the specificity is the whole video. The energy released is Zordon's own goodness, and it doesn't kill indiscriminately. It sorts. Monsters, foot soldiers, the Machine Empire, most of the rank and file of the United Alliance of Evil, all turn to dust. But the big names, Rita Repulsa, Lord Zed, Divatox, and Astronema, are not destroyed. They're cleansed. The evil is removed, and they're left standing there as human beings. Fans call it the Z-Wave. It is, and I don't think this is controversial, the single most consequential event in the history of Power Rangers. Let's put the receipts on screen properly, because the details matter for what comes later. Rita and Zed survive as humans. Most of their army doesn't. Divatox gets a human form. Astronema had already been struck down in that same finale, killed by her own blast bouncing off Andros' spiral saber. And the wave brings her back as Karone, the sister she was supposed to have been, with the implants and the programming gone. And then the franchise keeps cashing that check for 25 years. Karone shows up the very next season and takes up a Fallen Rangers morpher. Rita turns up years later in Mystic Force as the Mystic Mother, a good character, an ally, because the wave's redemption was real and the show never took it back. And in 2023, in the anniversary special, Billy tries to use what's left of the Z-Wave to bring Zordon back. It backfires. The evil essence of Rita comes back without her, and it takes over Alpha 5's body. Robo Rita exists because of a wave that a man in a tube generated by dying in 1998. Labeled reading, hours. That is not a plot point. That's a foundation. Every single one of those stories requires Zordon to be dead, and requires the specific way he died. Hold that thought.
It's Morphin time! White Ranger power! Black Ranger power!
Now register 2. Why did they kill him? Not because a writer had a beautiful idea in the shower. Because the show was in trouble and the format was breaking, and both of those things are documented. Turbo's ratings fell hard. That's the consistent account across the reference record on the era. And it's why In Space was written the way it was, as a finale. The producers behaved like people ending a show. They brought back the whole Rogues Gallery. They lost Earth on screen. They killed the Mentor. Then In Space did well enough that Saban and Fox kept going, and the finale became a handover. That's the business bit. Here's the structural bit, and it's the one that actually decides this video. Power Rangers is built on Japanese footage. Every season adapts a Super Sentai series, and Super Sentai resets every single year. New suits, new team, new mecha, new toy line. 1 year. One show. Done. Power Rangers spends 6 years fighting that. Mighty Morphin's second season adapted Die Ranger, but kept the original Zoo Ranger suits, because the suits were too popular to drop. So Saban had to commission brand new footage from Toei of the old suits fighting the new monsters. Season 3 adapted Kaku Ranger, and again kept the old suits, taking only the mecha. And it cost them. Established weapons quietly stopped appearing on screen, because there simply wasn't footage of them anymore. That's what holding a cast in place against an annual reset actually looks like. Expensive, awkward, and visible on screen. And it never really stopped. In Space itself is built on Mega Ranger, the 21st Sentai series. Lost Galaxy is built on Gingaman, the 22nd. Two completely unrelated Japanese shows, arriving 12 months apart, whether Saban was ready or not. That's the conveyor belt. It doesn't care what your story is doing. Then In Space ends, Zordon dies, and the very next season, Lost Galaxy, does the thing the source material had been demanding all along. It premiered on Fox Kids in February 1999, with a brand new cast, a brand new story, and no carryover. And the record is blunt about what that was. It's the first season to adopt the annual practice Super Sentai had always used, and Saban chose to keep every season after it standalone. Labeled reading. Zordon's death is the wall the old format hit. The Mentor dies, the continuity closes, and the show finally starts matching the pipeline that feeds it. Line in the sand. From here on, nothing is canon. This is me guessing, out loud, in front of you. I'm going to keep saying that because I don't want a single clip of this video going round with someone thinking I said it happened. The Divergence is one refusal. Andros says no and means it. Maybe the other Rangers get to him first. Maybe Zordon can't finish the sentence. It doesn't matter how. The tube doesn't break. Zordon lives. There's no wave. Now, what breaks?
Dark Specter destroyed?
Astronomer is now your supreme leader.
Speculation, and I'm arguing it from canon rather than making it up. Without the wave, the entire United Alliance of Evil survives. Not damaged. Not scattered. Intact and mid-invasion. On a night when Earth had already fallen. So my guess, and it's a guess, the Rangers lose. Properly. Because the show had already written itself into a corner it could only escape with a miracle, and we've just deleted the miracle. 5 kids with a ship do not beat every villain in the franchise at once. The wave wasn't a bonus, it was the win condition. Which means one of two things, and I genuinely can't tell you which the writers would have picked. Either the season doesn't end there, and in space rolls on into a second year of occupied Earth, which is a much darker show than Saturday mornings in 1998 had any appetite for. Or they find a different miracle, and every different miracle I can think of is worse, because it's a device rather than a person. Zordon's death works because you'd spent 6 years with him. A magic crystal doesn't, and Rita stays Rita, Zed stays Zed, Divatox stays Divatox, which sounds fun for about 4 seconds, until you remember what that costs later. And we'll get there. Guess? Clearly labeled, but I'll defend the shape of it. The tube breaking wasn't the emotional climax attached to the win. It was the win.
Is he?
Ay, 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 don't even think it. Zordon is just fine.
Still speculating. This is the beat I actually care about. If Zordon lives, the Zordon era doesn't end. There's no reason for it to. Your mentor's alive. Your continuity is unbroken. Your Rangers have somewhere to report back to. The show has no natural reset. And now go back to the footage problem. Because that's not a guess. That's the machine the show runs on. Season 7 still has to come from somewhere. And in the real world, it came from Gingaman, a Sentai series about a completely different team on a completely different premise. In our timeline, you've still got that footage arriving, and you've still got a cast the audience knows, and now you have to weld them together, which is exactly the situation that produced the Z2 mess. Saban's answer back then was to pay Toei to shoot bespoke footage of the old suits, and to quietly retire props they couldn't match. Do that every year, forever, and one of two things happens. The budget goes up, or the show gets visibly cheaper. So here's my honest read, labeled as a read. The version of Power Rangers where Zordon lives is a show that gets more expensive and less coherent every year, until somebody in an office does the maths and cancels it. The anthology format didn't dilute Power Rangers. It's the thing that let it hit 30 seasons instead of 8. And I'll admit the gap right here, because it's a big one. Nobody at Saban has ever put out a memo saying, "We killed Zordon so we could reboot annually." I've looked. What I've got is the sequence. The format changes immediately after, and the record explicitly ties Lost Galaxy's fresh start to the Sentai practice. That's strong. It isn't a quote. Treat it as my inference, not their confession.
Karone, you've got to listen to me. I'm Andros, your brother. Your own flesh and blood.
Still guessing, and this one hurts. No wave means Astronema stays dead. She's struck down in that finale before Zordon's tube ever breaks. In the real timeline, the wave is what brings her back and strips out the implants. Remove it, and Andros' entire arc, 6 years of the franchise's saddest search, ends with him kneeling over his sister's body, having achieved nothing. Which means no Karone. Which means that when Lost Galaxy loses its Pink Ranger, the first Power Ranger to die in the line of duty, there is no forward Princess of Evil available to pick up the Morpher. That's not a small edit. In our world, that casting is a record that still stands. The same performer playing the Ranger's archenemy one year and a Power Ranger the next. Delete the wave, and you delete that too. Somebody else gets that suit, or nobody does. And one of the best redemption arcs the franchise ever built simply never gets written. And it goes further than one costume. The Ranger Karone, replaced, doesn't stay dead either. Later, in that same season, she comes back and her powers pass properly. And the show gets a full resurrection arc out of it. Pull the first domino, and I genuinely don't know what shape any of that takes. That's not me being coy. I mean, I can't call it. Guess. Labeled, but the chain is canon at every link except the first one.
This is the best present ever, Zeddy.
Now, my petite pestilence.
Keep going, still speculating, because the knock-ons get genuinely silly. Rita never becomes the Mystic Mother, so Mystic Force loses one of the best late-era twists in the franchise. Nobody ever tries to reverse engineer the Z-Wave, because there isn't one. So in 2023, when the anniversary special needs a villain, Billy has nothing to tamper with. No Robo Rita. That whole special is built on the residue of a death that in this timeline never happened. And the big one. Zordon alive means Zordon is available, which means every legacy season for the next quarter century has a get-out-of-jail card sitting in a tube in the desert. Any team in trouble can phone the wisest being in the galaxy, labeled opinion, and I'll go to the wall on it. That would have ruined the show. Not immediately. Slowly. The reason later teams feel like they've got real stakes is that the adults are gone. Kill the mentor, and every new team has to be genuinely on its own. Keep him. And the franchise spends 30 years explaining why it didn't just ask Zordon.
If I don't see you again...
I will see you again.
Now let me argue against myself, because a what if that only goes one way is a sales pitch. There are real gains here, and the biggest one is a proper goodbye. The man in the tube gets what? One scene? He asks a kid to destroy him, and then he's a memory. There's no reunion. Andros never gets to sit down with him afterwards. Nobody from the original team is in the room. Jason, Kimberly, Billy, Zach, Trini, none of them are there when the person who recruited them dies. And for a lot of us who were 9, that's the thing that never quite sat right. A timeline where he lives is a timeline that could have paid that off. A handover instead of a sacrifice. The old team's coming back to a mentor who's still there. That's a genuinely lovely version of this show, and I'd watch it. And there's a real-world edge to this, I want to say plainly and once. Zordon was played on screen by David Fielding in the first season only. Fielding left, but his face stayed. The production kept using his likeness for the rest of the run, and from there, the voice belonged to Robert Manahan, who carried the character from 1993 all the way to that finale. Manahan died in June 2000 of a heart aneurysm. He was 43. Whatever the alternate timeline does with the character, the person who gave him that voice was gone within 2 years either way. A later season dedicated an episode to his memory. That's the record, and I'll leave it there.
Andros, hurry! You must destroy my energy tube.
Right!
Time is running out.
So, the tally? Guesses. All of them. Argued from canon and production reality. You keep Zordon. You keep the warmth, you get the goodbye, you get a mentor the legacy seasons can actually use. You lose the Z-Wave. So you lose the win in the finale. You lose Karone's restoration and her whole second life. You lose Rita's redemption and the Mystic Mother. You lose the 2023 special's entire engine. And you lose the clean break that let the show become a new series every year, instead of an increasingly patched-together old one. Labeled verdict? Mine? And I've talked myself into it while making this. Killing Zordon is the best decision anybody ever made on this franchise. And it's not close. It's the only death in Power Rangers that actually cost something, and actually bought something.
I will be gone, but my spirit will forever live in all that is good.
That's the thing about a floating head in a tube asking a kid to break the glass. It's the moment a children's show decided that a sacrifice should hurt and should be permanent and should change the shape of everything after it. Most kids' TV wouldn't dare. The algorithm reckons you want everything reset by the credits. That show trusted 8-year-olds with a funeral. Comments, and I want a proper argument on this one. If Andros refuses, how does In Space end? Give me your version, and be specific, because the Rangers find another way is not a plan, it's a shrug. And the second one, the one I keep going back and forth on, would you take Zordon alive for the next 30 seasons if the price was the anthology format? Straight swap. Yes or no? There's a full video on the theory that Zordon was the villain all along on the channel, and the In Space cast's whole afterstory is there too. Off you go. Right. That's the video. If you're new here, the deal on this channel is simple. Everything we say gets checked before it goes out. No invented drama, no cursed episode nonsense, no lying to you for a thumbnail. Just the stuff we actually grew up on, told properly, by someone who was there. We're doing 30 of these in 30 days at the minute, chasing 2,500 subscribers, and every single view counts more than you'd think. So if you've got a correction, or a memory from back then, put it in the comments. We read them. Half the ideas on this channel came from someone in there going, hang on, you missed one. And there's another video waiting on your screen right now. Go on then.